still the king and I, a top MC. I'm here to wax and tax the incoherent mass. I'm here to wax and tax the incoherent. Doing what we have to just to make ends meet. Take the mic like it was a jack.
Well, much like a painter, you have some people who draw, and they draw, a stick man, and that's as deep as they can go with their dimensions. Other painters can, actually give you, make you feel like you're looking at an actual picture, very in-depth, three-dimensional feel, and just the colors just seem so real. And I think music is a lot like that. You get some mix engineers who can get all the levels right and give you a very flat sounding piece of music, so when you put on your earphones or you listen to it through your speakers, that's essentially what you get. Whereas some engineers are able to really put you in an environment, make it feel very three-dimensional. Like you could almost pick out where each instrument would be, where the vocals are sitting, and you just have a lot more realism in the feel of the drums, or the way the guitar is sounding, the strings, vibrating, and just the again, going back to reverberation. If your environment is set up correctly for that particular piece of music, it can just draw the person into that song and just make them feel more like they're being a part of the song rather than just listening to it. Happiness, I think it goes a lot to instrumentation. If you're wanting to create something that sounds happy, I think a lot of times you'll go to strings that are in a major scale, that are making you think bright thoughts. Piano keys can do the same thing on the higher end of the piano scale. But then if you're wanting to get a darker emotion, a lot of times you start looking at flat scales, minor scales, lower end notes. Think of a cello playing sad notes. Think if you want to create anger, violent strings, just moving back and forth very quickly. Maybe like a loud guitar can sound very angry, very aggressive drums, and just pounding away. That can give you that tension of feeling anger. And then sometimes in one piece of music you can have all three of those, where there's just like this buildup of the tension, and then it's just like a release of these emotions, and then you start building up into a happier emotion. I think a lot of composers back in the day would do that. Take a look at like a lot of what Bach did. So many times it seemed like he was trying to work out an issue in his music. Sometimes it would start off very intense, and then if you listen there to the whole piece of music, you feel that tension in the beginning, you feel him kind of like resolving it, and then by the end it's just very peaceful and kind of like I've resolved what I was going through at the beginning. So that's music can definitely convey emotions. Yes, and an example of that would be like if you listen to African music, they tend to use a lot of percussion. The reason being is because so many times they're in an outdoor environment, and percussion tends to be able to travel long distances as far as sound goes. So if you're playing, in a village or whatever, hitting those drums and singing those notes that you sing, it's able to be heard for long distances. Whereas if you go to some place like Vienna, they have concert halls. Now their instrumentation is totally different. You've got strings, you've got a harpsichord. These instruments can't really be heard from far away, but because of the environment that they're being played in, it influences not only the instrumentation but also the type of music that is written. You couldn't take an African music group and put them into a concert hall and really get the same value out of it In the same way, if you took a harpsichord and a orchestra out to the desert, you would not get the same feel and the same sound, because most people wouldn't be able to hear it. I think the same thing goes with like rock music. So much of the rock music is made for arena type environments. If you put it into an arena, it is able to thrive. The overtones, the long notes, the way the guy sings. It's meant for that environment. Again, you take that same type of music and you put it out into the open air of Africa, and it's going to lose a lot of its intensity because it's just shooting out into the air, and we don't get that feel like we do in an arena type of environment. So overall, do I think that it affects the does culture and the environment that we're in affect the music that we're playing? Yes, I do. Instrumentation wise, the way we compose it, along the lines, yeah, across the board, I think it does. However, I do think that technology is allowing for a big change in that, with just the way that music has gone so personalized. If you go back, 50 years ago, people didn't have iPods, and headphones were barely coming around, if they were available to the public, and that just cuts off so much of what people had to deal with before. Now we've got personalized arenas, personalized deserts. Really, it doesn't matter where you go with that. You're able to listen to any genre of music now because of our personal, MP3 players or iPads. Whatever. I'm Windows based, so sorry. I tend to think that a angry person tends to listen to angry music in order to have somebody that they feel relates to them in that aspect. So that way it can kind of like, oh, okay, I'm not the only one. This person also feels the same way. Cool, let me go on and let me go about my day. Rather than, if I'm really angry, I don't want to listen to somebody singing happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, because then it just angers you more, because it's like, why is that person so happy? So I kind of tend to think of it that way. If I'm happy, of course I want to hear, happy music. If I feel romantic, I want to hear, love music. If I feel like banging my head and listening to some hip hop, a lot of times it's just because I'm ready to hang out or whatever. So yeah, as far as, listening to the type of music that fits our mood, I think it just helps us to know that we are being related to by whatever artist we're listening to. I think it has a lot to do with just the lyrics that are involved in it, but then a lot of times you look at the rhythms behind it. When you hear an R&B song, it's very rhythmical, very seductive type of sound, so it kind of puts you in that mindset. When you listen to rock, it's just so, it makes you kind of want to get into that, and ultimately you're wanting to move, and you feel that aggression. And with hip hop, it's just a lot of low end, and again, very strong of the lyrics. It's a rhythmical pattern in the lyrics, and you tend to just hear what they're saying, and it kind of draws you into that mindset. Interesting too also is the fact that people tend to think that we only hear music with our ears, but that's not true. When we're listening to music at a high volume, every cell in our body is actually feeling it. If we're listening to a loud system, when that bass hits, our whole body is feeling it. It's not just the ears, so the whole body is intrigued and moved by music. I think it's one of the few mediums of entertainment that actually does that. If you're watching a movie, you're not getting constant, your body is not completely being stimulated the whole time. If you're reading a book, you know, it's just usually just visual and mental things that are going on. But music itself, it just, like I said, it encompasses the whole body from bottom of your feet to, you know, the top of your head. I mean, many times I won't wear shoes when I'm mixing just so I could feel the bass even more so coming up from the floor. Just because I know that our whole body is laid out to receive, you know, sound waves, you know, and it actually kind of follows. Low frequencies will tend to hit you in the lower parts of your body, and higher frequencies tend to be more up here at the top of your head. You know, if you actually think about it, you know, when you hear a high-pitched noise, where does it appear to be coming from? Up here, you know. Low notes just tend to be like, you know, center mass, and it's a boom, you know. So yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it. It goes back to sound waves and the way that they're impacting. A high-pitched noise won't hurt you if it's at a very low decibel or very low volume. But if it's, you know, say at 115 decibels, that's very ear-piercing, and it's going to want to make anybody cover their ears, you know, basically because it's causing pain. Higher pitches tend to do that. Anything above, you know, I would say 15 kilohertz can start causing pain if it's at a too high of a volume. And, I mean, that's just a quick number thrown out. As far as why we feel the low notes, again, it's kind of like if you think of water. If you drop a small pebble into a pond of water, it's going to cause a small ripple that's very rapid, and it'll taper off. But if you were to get a big boulder and drop it into the water, you're going to get a big wave. When that wave hits you, it's going to move you more than that little wave that came from the pebble. And that's why when we feel those low frequencies hit us, it does feel more like we're actually being moved, you know, our insides are being jostled around. It's that simple fact that bigger sound waves are huge. You know, they can run very wide. They can run feet wide, you know, and that's where we get that feeling from. Again, my name is Tim Saiza. I'm a composer, producer, and mixing engineer. I work with Saiza Inc. Records here in San Antonio, Texas. I love music. I try to learn everything I can about it. Since the age of 5, I've collected records and moved on to cassettes, and now CDs and MP3s, and as you can see, I always rely on my vinyl. I love vinyl. And I want to thank Mortgage Dashboard for giving me this opportunity to share with you. Thank you very much, and y'all have a great day.